Aloha, how's it? It's a beautiful day here in Oahu, on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And it's, yeah, absolutely beautiful. I don't know what it's like where you are. I hope you had a happy Easter. It was really fun here. The waves were good. Yes, I did take out the surfboard and got some waves, and it was fun. So thank you for watching the replay. If you're watching this, hello. And this is Mondays with Mindi, and it's a weekly show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. And I like to talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles. I call them the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn that you want answered on a future show, you can actually leave them below this post and I'll start answering them on future episodes of Mondays with Mindi. I also like to bring on guests. And so I'm creating a list right now. I've been brainstorming. So if you have some ideas for somebody you'd like to see on the show, they don't have to talk about LinkedIn. I'm all about good people, good business, so we can kind of take the conversation that direction. They don't have to be LinkedIn marketing experts or gurus, just good people doing good business, especially in the B2B space, because that's where I like to play. Please put their names below. You can even shout yourself out if you really want to and you want to hop on the show and have a conversation. Let's do it. So let's get to today's topic. You can probably see it on the screen there. What's the deal with your social selling index? It's kind of hard to say, AKA your SSI score on LinkedIn. If you've been on LinkedIn for any length of time, you know that you probably have this score, but some people don't know exactly what it is, or some people have heard of it and they don't know where to find it. So, moving forward, I'm not going to say social selling index, that's too hard to say. I'll say SSI. The problem is, a lot of people really don't know what it is. If you don't know what it is, you won't know how to use it, you won't know what it stands for, or how to know if you're improving on LinkedIn. So basically, the score is there to help you figure out how are you doing on LinkedIn? Is what you're doing working? Are there areas where you can improve? That's what it is. It's more of a snapshot. But if you don't know how to improve it, if you don't know what it is, you have a choice here. You can either ignore it and you're missing out on a valuable snapshot of your LinkedIn activity, or you can pay attention. So, a lot of people I've talked to that are on the naysayer side of LinkedIn SSI scores say they're just useless. It's a vanity metric. Don't pay attention. You should measure other things. Others just claim ignorance, straight up ignorance. They don't know what to do with their score. So, what's the point? Others just say that they don't have time. They don't really spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So, why does it even matter? And others that are really nerdy, like there are some out there that are really nerdy, they think there's a better way to track their LinkedIn activity and the effect that what they're doing is having on LinkedIn. And there are some tools. So I'll give them that. I'll give the nerdy ones that. And then I've had people just straight up say to me, it's purely inaccurate. It's not a reflection at all of what I'm doing. When my score goes up, my sales go down. When my sales go up, my score goes down. So something is off here. It doesn't really matter. So today we're going to get to the bottom of the SSI score and how to use this real-time snapshot that's coming directly from LinkedIn. It's at least something to pay attention to be aware of, even if you don't use it for your sales and marketing programs. It's something to know about because it's a really nice snap judgment that'll help you know if what you're doing on LinkedIn is working or not. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Mindy Rosser. You can see it on the screen there. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a signature pipeline building program called LinkedIn for Business, which is for entrepreneurs, subject matter experts, and savvy salespeople who are trying to transition. So, they have a new offering, a new business, a new revenue stream, and they're trying to build their audience and get into conversations with their ideal prospects on LinkedIn. So, I help them navigate that transition, fill their pipelines so they can grow that new stream of business. In this slide, we're going to talk about why ignoring your SSI score is costing you new business relationships and how you can use your SSI score to improve your ROI, your return on investment, on LinkedIn. So stop wasting time doing what you hope works on LinkedIn. It's really about using the SSI score to help you reach your objectives. Okay, so when I first heard of the SSI score, I was really skeptical. And I'm always skeptical when LinkedIn releases a new feature or tells you something about your LinkedIn profile. I feel like they're always trying to sell me something or upgrade here, or you need this cool little gadget gizmo feature on LinkedIn and you got to pay to get it, right? So I track my own metrics. I have my own spreadsheets. I watch very particular, super secret metrics to tell when my programs are working for myself, for my clients. So I'm like, wow, what's the deal with the SSI score? I don't need it. Yeah, I've already got my own stuff. But not everyone is as nerdy as I am when it comes to tracking their LinkedIn ROI. I mean, think about it. How nerdy are you? Do you pore over spreadsheets and analytics dashboards every day? Probably not. There might be a few of you out there who are. You can leave your comments below. That's okay. I'll still talk to you if you're that nerdy. But most people are probably not that nerdy unless it's directly related to their day job. It's related to their performance at work. So I had this aha moment when I was delivering a webinar presentation to a group of corporate executives about making the most of their LinkedIn profiles. Someone had to ask, right, about the SSI score. Was that a metric that they should pay attention to? So my first gut reaction, you can probably guess it was, no, no, get my nerdy spreadsheet. But I held myself back, thought to myself, are these execs actually going to dig into one of my spreadsheets or have a monthly debrief with me about how many one to one conversations they've had with their ideal prospects based on their outreach and marketing efforts? No. Okay. Right. So, what do they have time to do? They have time to check their SSI score for 60 seconds every so often just to see how they're doing. So, is the SSI score something they should pay attention to? Yeah, that's when it hit for me. The SSI score is valuable. It really is not just a vanity metric. So, it can help these execs figure out if what they're doing is working or not. Is LinkedIn even something that they want to invest time into? If they're happy with their score, then maybe not. If they feel that it needs some improvement, then maybe that is something that is telling them they need to go a bit deeper. So that's how I started thinking about the SSI score. It's more about that general idea of how you're doing on LinkedIn. And if you're like me and you like hits of dopamine every now and again, it's nice to check it. You get to see how well you're doing and you go, rah, rah, I'm in the top 1%, right? Okay. So if you are not going to go too deep with your LinkedIn sales and marketing program, if you do want to go that deep, I can help you with that. The SSI score is something you should definitely check every month or so, maybe every couple months. If you notice that it's not going up or maintaining over time, that tells you you may need to go a bit deeper. So it's time, drum roll here, I don't have any fancy sound effects, to bring up your score. If you're watching the replay or you're here with me live, just type into your browser linkedin.com/sales /SSI, and you'll see this, what you see on my screen here for yourself. And I'll put it below in the comments too if you're watching this later, so you can just click that link to check it out. I recommend that you are checking this every month or so just to keep an eye on it. I put a reminder in my task manager, my project manager, just to let me know and remind me to look at it. And then I make a quick decision on whether I need to make changes and go deeper. All right, so let's talk about each section. This is what you've been waiting for, right? So the industry SSI rank is what you're going to see at the top there. And what that actually means is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's how do you rank against people in your industry? LinkedIn looks at the industry that you've marked on your LinkedIn profile and uses its fancy algorithm to determine where you stand in the industry. So if you're wondering what's a good number here, that's what people ask. If you're in the top 1 to 5% for your industry, you're doing pretty well. I usually like to stay in the top 1 to 3% for my industry, but each industry is a little bit different. If your industry tends to be a little more active on LinkedIn, then it's going to be a more of a challenge to get into that top 1 to 3%. So to improve this score, you're going to need to focus on the weakest components of your score. So we'll talk about those shortly, but just so you understand what the industry SSI rank is. Now let's talk about that network SSI rank, which is in the other corner. So that rank is the ranking you have against all of the people in your LinkedIn network. So those are your first degree connections, people you've accepted a connection request from, people you've sent a connection request to and they've accepted. Those are people in your network. So think about it. If you have a network filled with LinkedIn power users, your score may not be as high as your industry average. So it really depends on the people in your network where you're going to score, okay, and how active they are on LinkedIn. If you're in the top 1 to 3% for your network here, you're doing pretty well. To improve the score, you can either up your game on LinkedIn, or the other way to do this is just start disconnecting with all the LinkedIn power users and start connecting with new LinkedIn users who don't know how to use LinkedIn. Okay. So that's how to change that score, though I probably wouldn't recommend the latter. All right, so let's dive into the four components of your score. What do these actually mean? If you see that little question mark next to it on LinkedIn, you can click that and it'll give you a brief snapshot telling you what it means. But I'll explain a little bit more in detail here. So, for establishing your personal brand, that's the first thing you see there. LinkedIn wants you to create an engaging LinkedIn profile. And that's what I'm going to talk about next week on the live. So, make sure you come because we're going to talk about that there. This is the cornerstone of your LinkedIn presence. Think of it like your homepage of your website. It is that important. It is critical that it looks good. You'll also need to regularly share posts to LinkedIn to boost this score here. If you're wondering how often is good enough, how often is frequent enough, what does LinkedIn like to see? If you're just starting out, I typically recommend starting with a post per week if you've never shared anything before. Now, if you're really comfortable using LinkedIn, you could probably take that up to 2 to 3 times per week. But focus on in this section, you want to think about your profile and then the posts that you're sharing. Not spammy posts, good posts, posts that showcase your personal brand, your thought leadership, and your expertise. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to think about is finding the right people. What does this mean? This actually means that you are connecting regularly with people for business purposes. So you're accepting new connections into your network, you're going out and finding people to connect with, people that you're meeting in real life or in other communities. You're coming here to LinkedIn and you're connecting with them. What you don't want to do is just mass blast, sending connection requests using some automation tool to get people to connect with you. LinkedIn does not like this. It'll take you down in this score. So you don't want to do that. But it's more about authentically connecting with people. So if you see somebody that's commenting on a post, you like their comment, it's going and connecting with that person on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's tracking all of these things. In the background, it knows what you're doing, it's following your behaviors, it's knowing where you click, whether you want them to know or not, they are. And you're going to be scored on that. So keeping the LinkedIn algorithm happy here is really just being authentic, being yourself. Use LinkedIn as it's intended to be used, which is one to one relationships related to your professional career, related to your business. All right, so the third thing is engaging with insights. Now, this can be really fun or it can be really time consuming. So you really want to think about how much time you want to spend in this area and don't feel that you have to spend 30 minutes or so engaging with insights. What you're going to do here, you are actually engaging with an insight right now by watching this live stream. And when you're watching live videos, when you're engaging with other people's posts, when you're leaving comments, when you're mentioning people in comments or in posts, these are telling LinkedIn that you're engaging with insights. So it'll score you higher here. The more you engage, the more highly you will score here. And this is really important when you are trying to build, especially if you're going and offering something new, if you're building a new revenue stream. Pay attention to how much you're engaging on LinkedIn because this will help you get connected. This will show that you're authentic, that you're a real person, that you're not just spamming and using LinkedIn as a broadcast tool. You are actually engaging in the two-way dialogue. Very important. If you're just getting started, I'd recommend looking to comment on about 1 or 2 posts per weekday if you can swing it. And this kind of feeds the algorithm and tells LinkedIn that you're engaged, that you're paying attention. All right, let's talk about the last one, which is probably, if I had to pick one, this is my favorite category. You can probably tell based on my score that I love building relationships. So this one is kind of a blend of the prior two components at first glance, but it's really an amalgamation of how you're building relationships on LinkedIn. So if you're messaging people who are credible in the industry, if you're getting into those two-way conversations with other experts in your field, and you're using the platform to nurture your business relationships. So you're reaching out to people that you've already connected with. You're checking on people. You're saying, how are you doing? How are things going? You are keeping that conversation alive in your LinkedIn messaging. LinkedIn will score you highly for this. And it will say, yeah, good job. Good job. You're building relationships. You're doing what we hope you should be doing on LinkedIn. You're not spamming people. It's really about just being yourself and connecting and helping other people. So when you put all of these components together, and you get your score, it's going to be on a scale of 1 to 100. So you see there where it says 83 out of 100 for mine. I tend to like to see about being in the around the 80s is probably a good place for most people to shoot. I've had a few people go in the 90s on this score, but it usually just goes up there shortly and then comes back down. I haven't seen it stay there indefinitely. There may be others that can prove me wrong, but I tend to see the performance best like with our sales and marketing efforts when it's in that 80s range. Okay, so let's talk about those last two metrics at the bottom there that you can see. And if you like to play the comparison game, I think we all do to some extent, then you can see what scores people in your industry and people in your network tend to have. And this can be interesting, I think, from multiple angles. It kind of shows you how you are measuring up. If you are far below that number, then you realize, okay, there is some catch up I need to do here. If you are really high above that number, then it's kind of inconsequential, like, okay, good job. I'm doing a great job. I'm doing better than other people. So I tend to like to see, my score is a little bit higher, but I am a LinkedIn power user and you may not be there. So if you're just shooting for like the average engagement, then maybe the average in your range will work. I would tend to recommend just go a little higher in both categories than what you see as the average there. So that's what those are, and that's how those can be helpful metrics to let you know how you're doing and where you can improve. Okay, so there you have it. All the elements to your social selling index, SSI score, what each of them means to you, and how you can make those snap judgments when you're looking for a quick gauge that doesn't require getting into spreadsheets or that in depth analysis. So, these SSI scores can be a valuable tool. Again, for those who want to use LinkedIn well, but you're not looking to embark on a serious sales and marketing initiative where the numbers that you're seeing must directly tie to ROI of your programs. If you're trying to get that nerdy and you want to have deeper analytics, there's one tool that I recommend and it's called Shield. So just like it sounds, shieldapp.ai. If you type that into your browser, I'll put it below as well. I'm not getting a kickback for shouting them out, but that's a tool that I use just for the marketing side of the analytics that I'm using for my clients' LinkedIn profiles. LinkedIn pages, you can get the metrics by being an admin on a page, but the LinkedIn profile metrics are a little more challenging to get, and it's kind of hard to read them within LinkedIn. So I would recommend a tool like Shield to keep your finger on the pulse. Then, okay, I can feel you already twisting my arm with my nerdy spreadsheet because I've mentioned it multiple times. So, if you really want my nerdy spreadsheet with a short tutorial video on how to use it to keep track of your sales and marketing metrics, check out the link below and that will get you direct download access, or you can just type it into your browser really easy, mindyrosser.com/metrics, and that'll take you to the page to get my nerdy spreadsheet. And I'm excited to share that with you if that's something that you like. So next week, we are going to be talking about how to fix the most important section of your LinkedIn profile in 5 minutes flat. Yes, literally 5 minutes will get the most important section fixed. So feel free to leave any questions or comments below. And if you have anything you want to share privately, my inbox is open and you can message me directly or shoot me an email, mindy@mindyrosser.com. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much for coming today. Again, if you want to get my spreadsheet, I put it there in the ticker so you can see that. And I will talk with you soon. Aloha.